Good morning, everybody. We're so glad that you all are with us again this week, and we are super excited about our guests, and we're going to continue the conversation that we started a couple of weeks ago, and we started a conversation on suicide proofing your home, and so we're going to continue that conversation. But I did want to uh, just kind of give a couple of announcements. One announcement is next Sunday we're going to continue that conversation, but I did want to when I have service next Sunday. Um, uh, July 4th. We will not have service July 4th next Sunday. And then I want to just kind of set it up a little bit because we want to make sure that we create a safe place. Parents, you will be on here, students, teenagers, and some of the younger kids. You probably watching us today, and we just want you to know that God, he wants you to help all people, right? He wants you to help all people. And there's a story in Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 37. And basically, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Luke is a book in the Bible. It's a person in the Bible who wrote um, uh, uh, this particular passage, and Jesus was talk. Some people came up to Jesus and it was like, "Hey, Jesus, what does the law of Moses say?" And so Jesus like, "Yeah." What Jesus replied, "What does they want to know who can inherit eternal life?" And so what happened was Jesus said, "Well, what does the law of Moses say? Like, you know how to read. How do you read it? Like, how do you read what the scriptures say?" And so the guy came back and said, "Love your Lord, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind, and then love your neighbor as yourself." Right? Love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said, "Yeah, that's it. You're right. You're absolutely right." And then Jesus goes on to tell this story about this guy. He said there was this Jewish man, there was this man who was traveling down the road. And as they were traveling down the road, somebody just, they they stripped him of all their clothes and beat him up and left him for dead. Kind of like in life today. Sometimes we can beat people up with our words. Sometimes we can beat people up with a wrong stare or a nasty look at them because they're not like us. Or sometimes we can beat them up with certain words that we use towards them. And so what happened was this priest walked by. This priest, I'm talking about somebody in the church, somebody who's supposed to be representing God, walked by and saw the man on the ground dead and walked right past him. And he said, "I gotta, I, I, I gotta go do something. I ain't, I'm gonna pass on right by him." The guy was laying down dead. Then another guy, a Samaritan, came along and saw the man. He felt compassion, and you're gonna learn some of this today about our guest going to show us. You can't just feel compassion, you got to do something with the compassion. And so what happened was he going over to him, the Samaritan, soothed his wounds with oil. He, for lack of better words, he comforted him. He made him feel better. He just didn't have compassion. He spoke to him. He said something to him. He encouraged him. He bandaged him up. And then he put the man on his donkey. He helped the man out. He got the man some help. He took him to an inn. He took him to someone who can take care of him, who can care for him. And then he told the innkeeper, the person who can help him, "Hey, if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know." Listen, that's what we're learning today. We're learning today how God wants us to help people who are hurting. You may see some hurting people. You're going to think about hurting people. You even may be hurting. And today, I believe God is sending some help to you, but also God is sending help to us to be able to help others who may be hurting. So I'm gonna turn it over to Miss Jolene. And so I want y'all to get, young people, I want you to get one thing, because you're gonna go into your groups. I want you to get one thing out of what is being said today. And then you're gonna talk about it in your groups. One thing God is saying to you, one thing you believe you need to change, uh, and how you can help somebody else, right? Okay. So that's all I want you to get. That's, I know I said one thing, but that was three. But anyways, I'm gonna turn over to Miss Jolene, and then Miss Jolene gonna introduce our guests again, and then we're gonna get into the presentation. God bless y'all. Remember, no church next Sunday. God bless you.
All right. Hello. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Miss Julene Kirkpatrick, and I just want to just piggyback on what Minister Alondio said. Well, just before I do that, just so you know, this is what we call our Can We Talk Parent Forums. And these are just quarterly times where we bring education and awareness to parents, to teens, to kids, just issues that kids and families face. So that's why we have these particular forums, and I'm so happy that you joined us today, especially for this particular forum. Our topic today is going to be suicide proofing your home. And suicide is a very serious topic, and I think it's one that we need to talk about a whole lot more. And I hope that you'll get a lot of education and a lot of tips on how to minister, how to talk to someone if you see them hurting, if you see them struggling. So this is what this particular forum is all about. And we have a special speaker. Her name is Kirsten Withrow. She is with the Crisis Center. And today she's going to talk about how to create a safe space. And that is so important when you're talking about this topic. You want to create a space where, particularly as parents, and I really want you to hear this, parents, you really want to definitely create a safe space where your kids can talk to you about anything, not just suicide. That's what we're talking about today. But we want you to create that space where your children can come and talk to you about anything, including suicide, if they have any type of suicidal thoughts. So this is a real important topic. And again, I'm so happy you're here. For the teens and for kids, if you're listening, you know your friends, and you know your friends really well. If you see them struggling, and you'll hear some things today on what to say and what to do, but if you hear your friends are struggling with suicidal thoughts or suicidal feelings, I want you to really listen on how to get them help. That's the biggest thing. If you notice anything, if you hear anything, it's so important to get them help. And we're going to kind of talk about that today. You also will get, as parents and just anyone else, there is going to be a resource guide on the Facebook page, on the students and kids Facebook page. So I really want you to make sure that you refer to that after this particular talk. So that is all I'm going to say, but I want to turn it over now to Miss Kirsten Withrow. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. If you have any questions on Facebook Live, please put those questions out there so that we can answer them throughout the presentation. Thank you again so much for being here. It's not by chance that you're here today. Thank you. Miss Kirsten.
Hi, friends. First, I want to ask you, can y'all see this chat on my screen? No?
No.
Okay, great. I'm going to leave it up then so I can see what y'all are saying. So like Miss Julian said, my name is Kirsten or Miss K, whatever you feel most comfortable with. And I'm from the Crisis Center. And y'all, we met 2 weeks ago when we started our conversation about suicide, and we are going to continue that conversation today. And so we are going to be talking about how you are able to suicide proof your home. And I want to remind you that it's not just your home that's important to suicide proof, it's the space that you occupy. So you want to make sure that you are someone that is dependable, who is kind, who can make sure that they are the person that if somebody is having thoughts of suicide, that they know that no matter what, they can come to you and talk to you. So that is what we are going to be talking about today. So we're going to be talking about relationships, empathy, and then how those make a safe space. Please, if you have any questions, ask me. Don't be afraid to stop me. That's not a big deal, or put them in the chat. So first, I want to ask everybody to, if you know somebody who's ever had thoughts of suicide, who has attempted suicide, or has even died by suicide, please let me know in the chat. I personally have been impacted by suicide. My sister has bipolar disorder, and she has attempted suicide. And it's really important that we talk about it. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do here, is normalizing asking the question, are you thinking about suicide? And we talked about that the last time I was here, right? It's very, very important that we create a space where you feel comfortable to ask the question, have you ever had thoughts of suicide? Okay. So let's talk about relationships just real quick. I want to remind you that relationships are not just for somebody that you are in love with, or is your partner, whatever that is, but relationships are very complex, right? You have relationships with your family, right? Your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your friends, a romantic relationship. You have a relationship with God, right? You have a relationship with your pets, and you have a relationship with your peers at school. So it's very, very important to remember that this applies to anybody in your life that you care about, right? So that means even if you see that an adult in your life, like your parents or your grandparents, are struggling with mental illness, it is important that you reach out and ask for help. So let's go over empathy again real quick. So remember that empathy is that it is your ability to feel with somebody and understand those feelings, okay? So this is really important. So maybe you haven't been impacted by COVID, right? Maybe you've actually had a great year, but empathy is being able to say, you know what, I can see that somebody has lost somebody to COVID, or maybe they lost their job, and I can feel with them and understand that they are having a really hard time. Somebody in the chat says relationships include anyone who is in your life, and that is very, very true. Relationships are very complex. We have relationships with all kinds of different people. All right, and also empathy is a choice. You have to make that choice. You have to wake up in the morning and decide, I'm going to be kind today. I'm going to be empathetic, because let me tell you, it is very easy to be unkind. That is the easy way to go. It's very easy to just say something that's mean, right? Like Minister Alondio was talking about, right? Choosing your words and how you talk to people. That is a choice that you have to make. And so I'm going to challenge all of you to just check yourself, right? Make sure that you're saying something that's kind, that's needed, right? Because we need more empathy. We got to spread that. And remember that empathy is not trying to fix it. How many of you are a fixer? I know I am a fixer. When you come to me with a problem, I've already started thinking about how I'm going to fix it. Even though you don't need me to fix it, I'm still going to try and fix it, because that is who I am. And I am very bad about that. So just remember, that is not what you have to do. You do not have to be a fixer. All right. You can just be there with them in the moment. That is not what we are doing. You can say something like, it sounds like you're having a really hard time, right? It is not your responsibility to make people feel better, okay? You are just there to support them. All right, so let's talk about the main part of this, and that is our safe space. How do we create that? All right, so remember, you need relationships and empathy to create that safe space, okay? So who's deserving, right? Well, everyone's deserving. But specifically, it could be someone who doesn't look like you, right? They may have a disability, they may have a different skin color, right? We have to remember that everyone is deserving of somebody being caring and kind. Other religions, right? Minister Alondio talked about that too in his story, right? He shared that how the priest can continue to walk, whereas somebody else stopped and took care of this person, right? That is really important. It shouldn't matter what religion they practice. We have to care about everybody. The rich, all right? This one is hard for me sometimes because we all have biases, which is something that we need to talk about when talking about creating a safe space, okay? Biases are when you feel unsure, maybe uneasy about something, like the rich, right? I may say I have a bias because I feel like, well, if you're rich, you have an easier time having access to a counselor, so that should you why be depressed, right? Well, that is not an empathetic answer. There are lots of reasons that someone who's rich may be experiencing suicidal thoughts. They could have had a very traumatic childhood. They could have lost somebody. They could have hurt somebody and they didn't mean to, right? So you have to be careful. Ooh, great comment, Zoe. Biases is you favor one thing because you're more comfortable with it. I like that. I'm very comfortable with not having a lot of money. And so, that's why it makes me more uncomfortable when somebody says that they have a lot of money, but they are also feeling really bad. Okay. Another one, the LGBTQIA, again, same thing. Your parents, this is especially important. Your parents, your guardians, your family members, just because they are adults does not mean that they do not struggle with thoughts of suicide or any other mental illnesses, okay? Remember, we said that by the age of 14, if you're going to have a mental illness, you probably already have it. And those teens turn into adults and then they start to raise their own kids. So please remember that. Please remember that the adults in your life are also having a hard time. And if you see that and you know that they need help, please reach out. If you don't feel safe talking to anyone, you can always go to Minister Alondio and let him know, and then he can help you talk to your parents. And lastly, a bully, right? This is really hard. It's somebody has said something really nasty to you, and now you see that they are struggling, and it's really hard to have sympathy for them, right? Because they made you feel so bad about yourself, and now you have to turn around and do the right thing. And let me tell you, it's not always easy to do the right thing. It is not an easy choice to make. But you can do that because you are so capable. You are capable of being kind and caring and making sure that even if somebody hurt you, even if somebody said something that you didn't like or made you uncomfortable, that you can still get them help. Okay. You may not have to do it directly. You may not have to say it to them, but you can reach out to an adult or your school counselor at school or someone at church or your parents, somebody, right? Jackson said most bullies have bad home lives. Excellent. Everybody who has tried to bully me felt bad about themselves. Excellent point, Jackson. Not everybody that you go to school with is going to tell you what's going on at home. All right. That includes your friends. I had a friend growing up I was very, very close to. We were like this, and we still are very close to this day. And I had no idea that she was struggling with abusive parents. She was struggling with abusive parents. She was always at my house, and I had no idea what was going on at home until she told me as an adult. So please be very mindful of that. Again, I'm not saying that it's not going to be hard, because trust me, even I struggle with that sometimes. Okay. But you have to make the choice to remember that they are more than deserving to get help. And maybe, like Jackson said, maybe after you get them help, maybe they aren't going to be a bully anymore. Maybe they have a safe space now. All right, so let's talk about our language, right? we're going to talk about 5 things in creating a safe space, and language is very important, right? How you talk to people is very important. Remember that just because you don't think somebody's listening doesn't mean that they aren't, okay? And this is how you start off. If you are saying really mean things or saying things like, well, if they're talking about suicide, they're not going to really do it. Or if you say, well, what do they have to be depressed about? What's the big deal? All right. So, do you feel like they're going to come to you and tell you that they're having thoughts of suicide if you've created this space that says, I don't really care if you think about suicide. That's not a real problem to me. Right? Silence is your worst enemy. Yes, exactly. Let's see what Jackson said. How you say something is just as important as what you say. Thank you, Jackson. That is a great point. Okay. There is something that we say is called your intention versus your intention versus how it's perceived, right? So you have to be mindful of that. It may be a joke to you. You may think it's funny, but to that person, it could be really hurtful. And we really have to think about what we say and what that person is in, that place that they're in. Like somebody said earlier in the chat, bullies maybe having a hard time at home. So if you make a joke about, oh, they're struggling about this, that may be really hurtful for them because they actually are going through something hard. So please be mindful of what you say. This is very, very important. Someone said, Nia said, what do you have to be depressed about is one of the most damaging things that's told over and over again to people with depression or suicidal thoughts. Thank you, Nia. Yes, I heard this as a kid from my parents, and this is not kind. This is not empathetic. Please do not ever say this, because people get to decide what reasons they have to be depressed about, right? That is a part of your language. You do not get to decide why somebody is feeling depressed. And if you want to make sure that your space is safe, that means that you are going to always make sure that they understand that no matter what the reason is, even if they stub their toe, okay? Last week, I stubbed 2 toes on 2 different days. And let me tell you, I've never done that before. But I definitely felt bad about myself because I'm like, how am I so clumsy that I have stubbed 2 different toes in the same week? My foot, it was terrible. It hurt so bad. So if that was the reason I was depressed, that could be the last straw. We have to respect that and we have to help them get better. Okay, let's continue on. So you're crazy, right? This is terrible. This is something that I hear all the time. Let me tell you, the word crazy has been very difficult for me to remove from my language because I am a child of the 90s and we created that word, okay? We love this word. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of how you say things because it really does desensationalize how we talk to people, how we talk about mental illness. I have anxiety. And I oftentimes will say, I feel like I'm crazy. That happened before my diagnosis, but it turns out I'm not crazy, right? It turns out that I have something that I react a certain way and I have to manage that. Okay, let's read some of the comments. I see lots of chatting. Approach is just as important as the response. Great point, Zoe. A safe space approach allows them to respond to their feelings. Yes, excellent. That opens the door for you to help them and get better. Exactly, Zoe, exactly. If you already don't have a safe space, they are not going to come to you, right? You can't see that somebody's feeling depressed and then decide to create the safe space because it's going to not feel so genuine. So make sure that you're always a safe space. Okay. And then Joshua said, if you are depressed and you are not covenant with God and you separate from him, okay, that's a good point, right? But sometimes we have to remember that what if somebody is angry with God, right? What if they are unsure because they have never felt this way and they are like, well, why would God do this to me? We still want to support them. right? We still want to support them and make sure, and you can always refer them to Minister Alondio. He can help them with that. He can help guide them through that. Okay, but in the moment, we want to remember that we want to leave that for the adults, and we want to be kind, and we want to make sure that we get them help and not passing judgment. Everything is going to be okay. How do you know that everything is going to be okay? You don't, right? You don't know that everything's going to be okay. And we don't want to tell a lie. We don't want to tell them that everything's going to be okay when we don't even know if it's going to be okay, right? Just pray about it, okay? Again, this is trying to kill somebody with positivity, right? So we want to make sure that we are, of course, they know to pray about it. Of course, that is always the first option, to pray about it. And we know that, and that is very important. Okay. But we don't want to be there to remind them of something that maybe they've already tried and maybe they feel like it's not working. What do you have to be depressed about? We talked about that, and we talked about how hurtful that can be. Have any of you ever heard, well, what do you have to be depressed about? Put it in the chat. Y'all know I said I have. I heard it lots as a kid. Let me read some of these. Okay, Nia said, especially in the LGBTQ community, they may have trauma associated with religion. That's a very good point. Some people do have trauma related to that. Maybe they went to a church that was not affirming, right? Maybe they went to a church who wasn't kind. And so you have to remember that. You can always say, hey, well, I love my church. I mean, maybe you could give that a chance. Maybe that could help you, right? Empathy. That's what we want to keep on going to. Okay, y'all are doing so great in the chat. Like, I love it. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about language around suicide, committed suicide. This is something that everyone in this room has said, including me. This is something that we need to remove from our language, because if you were to say somebody committed murder, somebody committed cancer, somebody committed suicide, right? You can't commit cancer, right? And committed sounds very like they've done something wrong. And we don't want to say that, because again, we want to make sure that we are creating a safe space for people to come forward to us when they are having thoughts of suicide. So we want to say something like they died by suicide, or they lost their battle with depression, because at the end of the day, that's really what's happening, is that somebody was dealing with depression. They may have never gotten help. They may have tried to get help. Maybe they felt really alone, and they felt like the only option that they have is to end their life. So be very mindful of how you say it. Please try to remove committed suicide from your language. If you say it by accident, that's okay. You just got to correct yourself and move on, right? I still mess up too. We're all human. So just make sure that you are being thoughtful, that if you say something maybe you didn't mean, you just step back and you say, I'm sorry, I meant to say this. Okay. A successful attempt, again, trying to hurt yourself is never successful. And completed suicide. So you can say, you know, there was a suicide attempt. In the word suicide, please do not be afraid of the word suicide. Do not be afraid of the word suicide. I know that it's scary, and I know that we have had years of people telling us, well, if you talk about suicide, then you're going to make them want to kill themselves. And that is not true. That is the exact opposite. That is a big myth. Talking about suicide actually reduces the risk of suicide. And that's because when people get help after they have attempted, their chance of attempting a second time dramatically decreases. So make sure that you are asking, if there is somebody in your household who is having thoughts of suicide, and you know that they're having thoughts of suicide, it's okay to just say, hey, how are you feeling today? Have you had any thoughts of suicide? Let's talk about trust. Trust is so important. How can you get somebody to trust you and tell you what's going on if you haven't created trust? So let's talk about building trust. We're going to talk about listening and affection. How can we listen? Unconditional positive regard. That means that you are not going to judge them, right? You're not going to judge them, right? We talked about the the toe stub. They are allowed to talk to you about anything, and that is a safe space. Undivided attention, right? Put your phone away. Put it away. You don't need your phone when somebody is talking to you about their mental health. Show you are listening. You can do things by like saying, mm-hmm, yeah, eye contact. Don't be afraid of silence. Silence is really scary, especially when I started working on the crisis line at the crisis center. A lot of times people were silent, and that's because they are thinking and trying to process. It's okay. Just let them be silent. Just be in the moment with them. And then, of course, you can always follow up, check on them later in the day or the next day. Say, hey, I want to see how you're feeling today. Is there anything that I can do? All right, affection, the words I love you. Please don't be afraid to tell people that you love them, okay? I love lots of people. I love my dogs. I love my parents. I love my friends. I love y'all, right? I love so many people. Please don't be afraid to tell people that you love them because it can really mean a lot. A hug, right? A simple hug. Showing compassion, right? Minister Alondio has talked a lot about that, making sure that you are compassionate. And being compassionate means that you are taking the time to really consider their thoughts and feelings and making sure that they feel loved. You are important, right? Make sure that they know that. Make time, make them a priority. Parents, please make time for your kids, make them a priority. Make sure that they know that if they need to talk to you and you're talking on your phone, that the phone is not the priority. Friends, that goes for you too, okay? So if someone you care about wants to talk to you, put your phone down, make time, make them a priority. This is how you build trust, okay? So that way they know in the future that they can come to you and tell you what's going on. But my friends, they don't trust their family. Well, that's okay because your parents have been here and now your parents know that they have to create a safe space so your friends can go to your parents, okay? So let's talk about validation. All right, so validation is reflective listening or active listening. And some things that you can say are like, well, did I understand correctly? You don't deserve to be treated like that. It sounds like you are really overwhelmed with emotions. Are you having thoughts of suicide? It sounds like you feel like death is your only choice. That is so hard to go through. These are important because we are validating how they are feeling. We are not telling them that they don't have a reason to be sad or just see the positive, the grass is greener on the other side. We want to validate how they are feeling so they know that it is okay to talk about that. All right, we are creating the safe space. So some other responses that you can do to build validation is calling out their courage, right? Thank you for trusting me with that. It really means a lot. Clarifying for what I'm hearing. You are feeling this way. Is that right? Character boosting. What a difficult situation. You've shown a lot of courage and strength. I'm here for you. What do you think I could do to help you feel better? Make sure that it is genuine, that it's from the heart, because people know when you're not being genuine. Safety. Let's talk about how you keep your home safe. If somebody is suicidal in your home, these things are non-negotiable. Okay, this is very important. I do these things in my home because I have a teenage stepdaughter and I want to ensure her safety and her friend's safety. Okay. Firearms, guns are the leading cause of suicide deaths in the United States, okay, by far. Half of all suicide deaths are guns. They are very easy to get, especially in the South. 31% of households in the US have firearms, and 2/3 of kids know where those guns are, even if the parents think that they've hidden them well. So be very mindful of that. Medications. Self-poisoning is the leading cause of suicide attempts. They are easily accessible. Again, right? Teen girls are especially at higher risk of self-poisoning, and that includes over-the-counter medicine like Tylenol, Aleve, all of those things. You can overdose on those things. So how do we keep our household safe? Well, for guns, of course, the first thing is you've got to remove those guns out of the house. Just because you think that they are hidden doesn't mean that they are, okay? If you can store them in another home, someone that you trust. If removing them from the home is not an option, you can keep it locked up in a safe where it's very hard to find, and make sure that you are storing the ammunition separately, away from the gun. Remember, I think we talked about it last week. If you keep your gun in an unsafe place, like under your bed or something like that, if you have a friend come over and they know that you have a gun there, they are going to try to get it, just like medications. Okay, so lock your medications up. I keep mine in my nightstand because I know where they are. I keep my razor blades in there also, because if a teen comes over here with or a friend comes over here and they're considering self-harm, like cutting themselves, I know where those razor blades are, and I know that no one's going to have access to them except for me. Do not keep a lethal amount on hand, okay? So again, store them at somebody's home that you trust. If you just keep like a week's worth of medications and store the rest. Don't keep, throw out old medication when it's no longer needed. You can throw it out with kitty litter. And just remember that I know that this seems like a lot. I know it seems like it may be inconvenient, but we're trying to save a life. And even if you feel like there's no point, trust me that there is. Please, if you even suspect that somebody is having thoughts of suicide, please do these things. All right, let's talk about self-care, and this is how we're going to end it. Okay, we're going to talk about grounding exercises. All right, but first I want to say self-care, self-care, self-care. Make sure that you are doing self-care. Okay, all of you deserve it. Your parents deserve it, your grandparents, your minister, right? Minister Alondio, he deserves self-care. Everybody deserves self-care. So make sure you're doing it. So if you're in a space where you need to do some quick self-care, like for myself, I have panic attacks, and these are some of the things that I do when I'm experiencing a panic attack. So counting backwards from 100 is pretty self-explanatory. You just start from 100 and try to make it all the way to 1. I have never made it to 1. I've usually calmed myself down before I've gotten to 1. The ABC thing. So this is something else that I love to do. I usually do this at night when I'm trying to go to sleep, is I will go through the alphabet and I will pick a topic and like animals, and I will think about what each letter will stand for. So A is anteater, B is a beaver, C is a chicken, and you go all the way through the alphabet. Another one that I like is the 5 senses. So the 5 senses exercise is you take a moment to ground yourself by saying 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Okay, so if you can't find anything to taste, a glass of water is a really good idea. A snack, maybe you haven't eaten. Make sure that you are eating and drinking, because that is also a part of self-care. And self-care can also be very intimidating, right? A lot of times when you see on TV, self-care is like going to a spa day, or going on a shopping spree. That is not, that is self-care for some people, but basic self-care are these 5 things, which is regulated sleep, active mental relaxation, which means that if you're sitting on the couch and you're just watching TV, you're not thinking about, oh, well, I could go clean my room, right? It's okay to take a moment and relax and give your brain a chance to decompress. Make sure you are staying connected, right? Staying connected with your friends, with the people that you care about, those relationships that we talked about. It's very important that you are staying connected. Set healthy boundaries. Setting boundaries is perfectly okay. If you are uncomfortable with something, you don't have to do it. That also means that if your friends invite you out to do something on a Friday, and by the time Friday comes, you're like, no, I can't do that because I've had a long week and I just want to sit in my bed and eat snacks and watch TV. Okay, you are allowed to set that boundary, and you are allowed to say, I think I'm going to hang and stay at home tonight. That's okay. Make sure you're moving your body. And that doesn't mean like hard labor, right? Moving your body can be like dancing. I love to dance and sing. I give my dogs concerts regularly. They love it. Not as good as the music we saw earlier, but you know, they get what they get. And please do not ever sacrifice your mental health for someone else. That includes your parents, okay? So that means that if your parents are doing something that's inappropriate and they're saying, well, don't say anything, do not sacrifice your mental health for them. You need to make sure that you are telling somebody. If they are having a really hard time and struggling with their mental health, please reach out, get them help. If you are struggling with your mental health and you see that a friend is also struggling with their mental health and it is too hard for you to bring up suicide to them, that's okay. That is perfectly okay, but you still have to get them help because it is your duty to warn, which means that if you know somebody is struggling, you have to get them help. So again, go to an adult and tell them what's going on so that way they can help you. So Miss Julene, she has been so kind enough to create a resource guide for all of you, and she's going to make sure that all of you get that. And some of these will be in there. So of course we have our crisis and suicide hotline that's available 24/7. UTalk is meant for y'all. It's meant for teens and kids. You can text or call this number between the hours of 3 and 10 p.m. Rape response is for survivors of sexual violence, so they can call us again anytime, 24/7. We also offer free counseling to survivors of sexual violence. And then for our folks in Georgia, we have their crisis line here. You can also always call the National Suicide Prevention Line, which Ms. Julene will provide for y'all. And then I just have some extra resources here. If somebody is looking for counseling services, information and resources is 211. You dial it on your phone just like you would 411 or 911. It'll take you to someone who has a full database of financial resources, counseling resources, pretty much anything that you can think of. UAB Community Counseling also has $5 counseling sessions. So please reach out to them. And ACT or ACT of Birmingham is also the affordable care. Affordable counseling and therapy. You can also reach out to them and see if they have any services for you that they can provide. So that is the end of our presentation. I'm going to leave this up. And are there any questions?
All right. Kirsten, thank you so much for the information that you provided to us. It was very helpful. I do have a couple of questions, and parents, if you have any questions, please put that in the chat or in the comments. Teens, if you have any questions, please put that in the chat and we can answer those for you. Kirsten, I do have a question for you. What do teens are on social media quite a bit, on Instagram, you know, just all the different types of social media. What should they do if they see someone on social media talk about, I guess, saying that they have suicidal thoughts, that type of thing, and they see it on social media? What's the correct response to that if they see a friend or something mentioning certain things on social media?
So that is a really great question. And this is actually something that we get asked a lot when we are on the crisis line. And so there's good news and there's bad news. So the good news is that if you know this person, if you have access to their friends list, you can go through their friends list and see if you can find any family members to try and reach out to them. Another option is reaching out to them directly, asking them these questions. Are you having thoughts of suicide? Being empathetic, doing the reflective listening. But sometimes we have friends online that we have never met. Like if you play a video game online with a group of people, or you've met on social media, and they say something, but you have no idea where they are, who their parents are. You don't know much about them other than their username. Unfortunately, there is not a lot that even we can do at the Crisis Center. This is something that is really difficult even for me to accept. And honestly, sometimes I tell people, like, pray about it, please pray about it. Also, another thing that you can do is just try and have some hope that somebody in their life can see that's what's going on and they are going to reach out to them. That was a really great question. And then I want to remind you of what we talked about last week about social media. If somebody's telling you to kill yourself, or they're saying that they are going to kill themselves, again, you need to reach out to an adult. This is very important, that we make sure that they are getting some help. You can always forward them crisis lines, text them, whatever that looks like for you.
Good, good. And just I wanted to also talk about sometimes teens may have barriers to getting help. What are some of the things that can hinder them from getting the help they need?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one big barrier is fear. Fear that maybe they're going to be taken to a mental hospital. That's a big myth as well. That is not our intention when you come to us and say, I'm having thoughts of suicide. Our intention is to keep you safe. And we understand that suicide is on a spectrum, and that just because you're having thoughts of suicide does not mean that you are about to kill yourself. So our goal is to keep you safe. Okay, so please do not have fear that our first thought is that you say, I'm having thoughts of suicide. Well, we're going to call an ambulance and they're going to take you to the hospital. That is not how it goes. So please be honest. Please be honest with your therapist if you already have one. Another barrier, of course, are your parents, right? Maybe your parents feel like you don't need therapy. Maybe they can't afford it right now. So if they're not allowing you to get therapy, please reach out again to someone at church, let them know what's going on. And then if it's, as far as if it's something that is hard to reach due to financial problems, again, there are lots of resources for you to get low cost or even free counseling. You can call us at the Crisis Center, you can call us at 211, or you can look at the resources here that I provided for, this is for the Birmingham area. And these two actually still are doing teledoc or telehealth. So if it's hard for you to get there, maybe you don't have a car, you can still do it at home in the comfort of your PJs.
Excellent. Well, Minister Londio, I'm not sure if we had any questions from Facebook Live or not. Do we have any questions there? I do have one more question that I can ask if you didn't have one.
I didn't see any, but I did want to address a few things as well. And thank you, Kirsten. It was great, great natural information, because some of the things that you said, it's not per se written like that in the Word of God, but it has the principles connected to it. And so I think sometimes young people, I want to help you see that the wisdom in it and how to connect with people. Even there was a story in the Bible where religious people came to Jesus with a woman who was caught in adultery. She was caught doing it. And y'all know what doing it means. She was caught in the very act. And religious people threw her down. The people threw her down in front of Jesus, and then brought the scriptures and tried to use the scripture to make him like, what you gonna do? Listen, that's not how we operate. We don't come like that. Jesus stooped down in the ground. He didn't say a scripture. Listen, he didn't say a scripture. He didn't say God said. He didn't say anything. He stooped down in the ground and he was listening for the wisdom of God to help that woman and to help the crowd. And when he stood up, all he said, hey, you who are without sin, you who ain't done nothing, you who are straight, you ain't did nothing. Why don't you throw the first stone at the lady? Why don't you hit her? Throw the stone and hit her, knock her down. You do it. And the Bible said, not one threw the stone. Listen, young people, what Kirsten, thank you. What she's trying to do and help us look, not throw the stone with the slap of the scripture, but get the wisdom of God and how to see someone who's hurting. Was the woman wrong? Yeah. Was the people wrong? Yes. But do we want to be like them, or do we want to be like Christ? Mm-hmm. Listen, it's the love of God that draws people to repentance. It's not how much scripture we know. It's not how powerful our prayer can be. It's the love of Christ. And what does the love of Christ looks like in that safe place moment with the person you are in that space with? And only the wisdom of God can give that to you. That's why, listen, we got to get this. If we're going to be impactful in the world, if we're going to win this world for Christ, we must look like him. We must respond like him. And Christ responded to that woman who was caught in adultery, what we would call a prostitute, or someone sleeping with somebody else's husband or husbands. Mm-hmm. But he was kind. And to Kirsten's point, there were some bullies. Those guys were bullies, but he was still kind to the bully. He was like, so you without any sin, why don't you cast the first stone? And then he turned to the lady, which we're talking about, giving attention to. He turned to the lady and he said, woman, he went to her. He said, woman, where are your accusers? And she looked up and said, oh, there aren't any. And he said to her, now go and sin no more. That's all he said. He ain't preach a sermon. He ain't say, the Bible said, you need to. He didn't do that. Listen, she was already hurting. She was already shamed. She was already embarrassed. So why are we going to nail it down even further? That's not
Minister Alondio, I want to touch on that because Nia has brought up a really great point in the chat. And I think that goes along exactly with what you're saying, right? We're not here to remind people that what they're doing is not wrong because they know that, right? They know that. And so Nia said, is saying do this or I'll hurt myself is another scary situation, right? When people are telling you that they are going to hurt themselves. And a lot of people do not trust that. They believe they're just doing it for attention. And Nia said that sometimes they feel like they're the only ones who's listening. And that's very stressful, right? So we have to trust people when they say that they are going to hurt themselves, that is what's happening. A lot of people, like we said earlier, they say, well, if you're talking about it, you're not going to really do it. That's not true. Okay, so be like Nia, make sure that you are there to support them no matter what is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so, I agree. Yeah, I thoroughly agree, Minister Lonyo. That was amazing what you mentioned. And I just think we just need to remember that we're here for a reason, and we could be honestly the only person that can help that person. We could be the only one. So if we see someone hurting, we shouldn't think, oh, they'll be okay, or, oh, somebody will help them. What about if it's you that was the person that was called to help them? So we have to really be thinking that we could be the one that God has called us to help that person. So I really thank you. Thank you, Minister Landio, for that. That was awesome.
I do want to add this too, Ms. Elaine, because I don't want to miss this. there is a place too where we have to manage our thoughts. We have to control our thoughts, and we got to watch what we put in our hearts and our minds. And that's for us. But also, when somebody is hurting, we don't start with that with them. We listen to them, and then we can ask them, well, what have you been thinking about lately? What have you been meditating on lately? What you been reading about lately? Because some of those things can cause you to go to a place of depression. It can cause you to go into a place of thinking that you're not enough based on what you're looking at or based on what you're hearing. And so we want to make sure that one of the things we really try to emphasize and encourage people to do is meditate on what God says about them, the scriptures. And we encourage that. But then we have people who they can do that, but they have other chemical imbalances that can cause other stuff. And so that's why we're not only a spiritual being, we're a spirit, soul, and body. It makes up all of us. And so they all work together, but the spiritual side is just as important as the natural side, and they all work together, right? So young people, that's why I said in the beginning, on the app, there's a Bible reading plan that we put on the app for you to kind of meditate in what God says about you. And it's very important because me as an adult, if I don't continuously meditate in the word, it's not just young people, it's us as parents too. Like she said, sometimes your parents may be dealing with stuff, and that's true. And we have to talk and we have to meditate in God's word. And so there's a lot of ways we can go with this, young people, but the focus of this one is how to make sure that we suicide the home. And I like how Kirsten said it, your safe place. Your safe place is anywhere that people are around you. And so how we keep that safe place, and that place safe. And it's being aware of the people around you and yourself. And ultimately, we should know. I can't take that for granted. Ultimately, we really need to know that God is with us and God wants to help us and he wants us to help others. And so lock into your relationship with God, lock into it. And it's not deep, but just lock into it. So I thought she gave some great practical stuff for us to help ourselves, but also help others. And we want to help other people. Yeah. And then we're going to go into groups. But were you going to say one more thing, Ms. Elaine, before I go to point everybody to groups?
Oh, no, I think you said it all. I just want to say thank you all for coming today and just watching and viewing and being a part of this conversation. There's a lot, that we could talk about with this, but I think that you've gotten a good understanding of how to help, and to know that you can reach out for help, that it is okay to reach out for help if you're struggling. So I guess that's just it, Minister Alandio. Kirsten, thank you so much for everything that you did today. It was really, really good and really, really insightful. So thank you so much for just offering your time. And that's it, Mr. Alandio. Thank you again for this particular forum.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. I've really enjoyed all of you. You guys were great in the chat, and I appreciate you so much having really great conversations. Just remember that y'all are more than capable. You're very, very kind, and I know that y'all can do the right thing. And it's not always easy, but in the end of the day, you will always make the right choice, okay?
Enjoy your groups. In your groups, one thing that stood out to you, one thing you can do to help others, one thing you can do to help others, and what does God say? Like, what does God say, right? So in your groups,